Texas covers nearly 270,000 square miles, bigger than France, bigger than most of Western Europe. Most people picture highways and open plains. What they miss is what Texas holds underneath. On a limestone cliff in west central Texas, shadows from rock overhangs complete specific ancient paintings on certain days of the year, as if the artists designed the sun's movement into their work. 30 miles east of El Paso, the largest collection of ceremonial mask paintings in North America is locked inside 3 granite hills, and reaching some of those paintings means crawling flat through a stone tunnel. The faces on the other side have been watching that entrance for 1,000 years. Stay with us for number 1. A farm north of Austin, where amateurs used to pay for weekend digs, held tools 20,000 years old. That discovery broke one of archaeology's foundational theories. It almost didn't survive. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. We cover Texas history and archaeology like this every week. Today we are counting down 10 ancient sites in Texas that still don't make sense. Number 10. Paint Rock. The cliff that stays hidden. On the north bank of the Concho River in west central Texas, a limestone cliff runs half a mile and rises roughly 70 feet. There is no roadside marker for it. You drive to a small town, find a gate on a ranch road just north of the river, and call ahead to arrange a tour with the family that has owned this land since the 1870s. The cliff holds more than 1,500 paintings, bison, deer, human figures, handprints, and geometric shapes in 5 colors. Over roughly 12,000 years, multiple tribal groups came here, not to live. There is no evidence of sustained habitation at the site. They came specifically to paint. The site has never been excavated. In the 1990s, researchers discovered that on 4 specific days of the year, the midpoints between each solstice and equinox, the natural shadows from the rock overhangs move across the wall and complete certain painted figures. New shapes appear that are not there on other days. The artists may have built the sun's annual movement directly into the design. One section of the wall records an event from 1865. 2 crossed lances, drawn scalps, and a woman painted lying horizontal, the traditional depiction of captivity. A 14-year-old settler named Alice Todd was taken in a raid that year. She was never heard from again. Number 9. Isleta del Sur, the town that changed countries. In 1848, the Rio Grande shifted course and the new channel became the U.S.-Mexico border, leaving a community near El Paso in a different country without moving an inch. That community is Isleta del Sur, the oldest continuously settled place in Texas. Founded in 1681, it was built by Tigua Indians who had been captured by Spanish soldiers following a failed Pueblo revolt in New Mexico and forced marched to the El Paso area. They built a new church from mud and willow reeds in 1682. A flood destroyed it in 1740. A fire destroyed the replacement in 1907. They rebuilt and stayed. After American annexation, the Tigua were not recognized as a tribe by Texas until 1967, or by the federal government until 1968, nearly a century during which they were officially a nation that did not exist. The mission stands. The Pueblo operates a cultural center. They have been on this ground for over 340 years, through flood, fire, a border shift, and a century of legal invisibility. The country changed. They did not. Number 8. Enchanted Rock. The rock that groans at night. On clear nights in the Texas Hill Country about 18 miles north of Fredericksburg, a pink granite dome creaks and groans loud enough to hear from the base. The sound is the rock itself. Granite contracting as it cools after a day in the sun. A billion-year-old formation settling against itself. Scientists explained this over 100 years ago. The rock still sounds like screaming. Enchanted Rock formed roughly 1.1 billion years ago when a massive pool of magma cooled deep underground without ever erupting. The surrounding limestone eroded away over hundreds of millions of years, leaving the dome exposed. It rises 425 feet above the hill country and covers approximately 640 acres. Humans have been visiting for roughly 12,000 years. The park contains over 400 archaeological sites, 120 of which are state archaeological landmarks. Grinding holes worn into the granite at the base mark where people pounded seeds into flour for millennia. The Tonkawa heard the groaning as early as the 1500s and attributed it to spirits. They also reported ghost fires on the summit, moonlight reflecting off wet granite after rain, geologists now believe. The Spanish heard it. The Anglo settlers heard it. Every culture that encountered this rock across centuries and entirely independently arrived at the same conclusion. The rock is alive. In 1841, Texas Ranger Jack Hayes was ambushed by Comanche warriors while surveying the dome. He reached the summit, held his position in the granite crevices for several hours, and survived the attack until his men arrived. The Comanche, who already regarded the rock as supernatural, reportedly fled more convinced of that than when they arrived. The dome is open year-round as a state natural area. On cold, clear nights, the groaning is most pronounced. The explanation has not changed in over a century. Neither has the sound. Number 7. Rockwall. The city built on a riddle. In 1852, 3 settlers east of Dallas were digging a well. About 30 feet down, they hit what appeared to be stacked stone, fitted closely together, running in a direction they couldn't see the end of. They kept digging around it. It kept going. The formation has since been documented in at least 11 separate locations, tracing a roughly rectangular perimeter of approximately 20 square miles, running 30 to 80 feet underground. The county was named after it. So was the city. Both are still called Rockwall. The scientific consensus, established since at least 1901, is that this is a natural sandstone dike, sedimentary material that filled ancient fractures, hardened over millions of years, and broke apart in ways that happen to resemble stacked bricks. Geologist John Geisman stated it plainly in a CBS News interview. In my opinion, it is virtually impossible for these to have been formed above the Earth's surface. Here's the thing. Historical accounts from multiple separate excavations over the following century describe apparent archways, what seemed to be a vaulted chamber, and features that appeared to be steps within the formation. One dig recovered a round iron disc embedded in the stone. A 1949 excavation reportedly produced a rock with markings that appeared to be ancient script. None of this has been verified by modern scientific excavation. The entire formation lies beneath private land. In 2012, a city bond proposal that would have funded public excavation of the wall failed. No one living has seen most of it. A small reassembled section of the stone sits outside the Rockwall County Historical Foundation, the only portion the public can see. The 3 settlers who found the wall could not agree on what to name their town. Each wanted his own name on it. The underground wall settled the argument. The riddle named the city. The city still sits on top of it. Number 6. Alibates Flint Quarries. The stone that conquered a continent. 35 miles north of Amarillo, on a mesa above the Canadian River in the Texas Panhandle, there is a type of stone that exists in only one 10-square-mile area on Earth. It is technically not flint, it is agatized dolomite, formed when mineral-rich water worked through ancient seafloor deposits about 260 million years ago. It comes in marbled bands of purple, blue, red, orange, and gold. For 13,000 years, people came specifically to get it. Stone tools made from Alibates flint have been found across the Great Plains in the American Southwest, as far north as Montana, and as far east as the Mississippi River. At some sites in southern Kansas, up to 50% of all recovered stone tools were made from material quarried at this single location. Clovis-era spear points made from this stone have been found embedded in woolly mammoth bones. Over 700 individual quarry pits have been identified at the site, ranging from 5 to 25 feet across and 4 to 8 feet deep. Centuries of fill have reduced them to shallow depressions in the stone. The most intensive users were the Antelope Creek people, a semi-sedentary agricultural group that farmed and traded here from roughly AD 1150 to 1450. When Francisco Coronado rode through the area in 1540, they were already gone. No surviving account explains where. Archaeologists have compared their disappearance to the Grapes of Wrath, an entire civilization organized around one irreplaceable resource and then simply vanished. Texas's only national monument is open by guided tour through the Lake Meredith Visitor Center. No collecting permitted. Something that beautiful, that rare, that useful, it crossed a continent. The people who controlled it left without a trace. Number 5. Caddo Mounds. The empire that capped itself. 6 miles southwest of the town of Alto in the East Texas piney woods on a road that follows an ancient Caddo trail, 3 earthen mounds rise from a clearing in the forest. They are the southwesternmost ceremonial mound center of all the great mound builder cultures of North America, the farthest southwest expression of a tradition that produced the earthworks of the Ohio Valley and the pyramids in Cahokia. The Hasinai Caddo built this complex over approximately 500 years, beginning around AD 800. At its height, the associated village extended over 110 acres. 2 of the mounds served as platform temples for ceremonies and governance. The third is a burial mound. Some of the tombs contain the remains of multiple individuals, up to 6 or 8, which archaeologists believe may include servants or family members sacrificed and interred alongside community leaders. Around AD 1250 to 1300, at the height of their power, the Caddo performed a ritual capping of the mounds, covering each with a final layer of earth, and left. They did not collapse under pressure. They did not flee a threat. According to Caddo oral history, they shifted their focus from east to west. The site was never again used as a major center. The word Texas comes from a Hasinai Caddo word meaning friend. A new museum opened at the site in 2024. The Caddo Nation still holds ceremonies here. The mounds are intact, low and grass-covered, the forest pressing in around them. They built the most sophisticated civilization in Texas. They named the state. Then, at the height of their power, they sealed the mounds and walked away. No one has fully explained why. If you are finding this interesting, hit the thumbs up and drop a comment telling us which of these sites surprises you most. We read every one, and they help us find locations for future videos. We are halfway through the list. The next 5 carry more weight. Number 4. Hueco Tanks, the desert cathedral that holds the most faces. Drive 30 miles east of El Paso and the Chihuahuan Desert extends flat in every direction, until 3 granite hills rise abruptly from the floor, jagged and tall enough to contain their own canyons, boulder mazes, and cave systems. They appear at a distance like something dropped from somewhere else entirely. The Spanish word for hollow is hueco. The surface of these rocks is covered in natural basins carved by erosion, which collect and hold rainwater. Until about 1910, those huecos were virtually the only water source between the Pecos River and El Paso. Every group of humans who crossed this desert for 10,000 years stopped here. Folsom-era projectile points associated with Ice Age hunters have been found at the site. And while they were here, they painted. Hueco Tanks holds more than 3,000 pictographs and petroglyphs across its 860 acres, including the largest collection of ceremonial mask paintings in North America, over 200 identified mask images. They were made by at least 3 culturally distinct groups. Desert archaic hunter-gatherers beginning several thousand years ago, the Jornada Mogollon agricultural people between AD 500 and 1450, and the Kiowa, Apache, Comanche, and Tigua as recently as the 1800s. What archaeologists cannot fully account for is not that multiple cultures came here. Water accounts for that. It is why each group, separated by centuries or millennia, chose to paint in roughly the same areas, layering images over older ones, as if the location held a specific and continuous significance across all of them. The site was designated a National Historic Landmark and a State Archaeological Landmark partly for this reason. In 2017, digital enhancement software identified previously undiscovered pigment in 31 new locations within the park. The walls are still giving up what they hold. Access to the most significant rock art areas requires a guided tour booked in advance. Daily visitor numbers are capped. Some of the paintings are reached by crawling flat through a stone tunnel. On the other side, faces stare back from the ceiling, faces that have been watching the entrance to that tunnel for 1,000 years. The park operates under daily caps, a Wednesday to Sunday tour schedule, and a reservation system. That is what it takes to protect something 10,000 years old. Number 3. Horn Shelter. Number 2. The Shaman and the Child. 11,200 years ago, Before the pyramids, before Greece, before any recorded civilization, someone placed a man and a child together in a shallow pit under a limestone overhang above the Brazos River in central Texas. They were laid in the fetal position. Over their bodies, turtle shells. Around them, red ochre pigment, seashell beads from hundreds of miles away, a hawk's talon, fossilized shark teeth, flint knapping tools, and a fine bone sewing needle placed with the child. 19 limestone slabs were set on top. Then whoever did this walked away. No one came back for 11,200 years. Horn shelter. Number 2 is a limestone rock shelter 150 feet long and up to 30 feet wide on the west bank of the Brazos River, about 16 miles northwest of Hueco. It was spotted by a self-taught archaeologist from Hueco named Al Redder, who noticed the overhang while attending an Independence Day picnic on the riverbank. He swam the river to investigate. He returned in 1967 with the landowner's permission and 2 fellow avocational archaeologists, and they began to excavate systematically. The work took 26 years to complete. In 1970, they reached the lowest stratum. The 19 limestone slabs. The grave goods. The man and the child. Radiocarbon dating placed the burial at approximately 11,200 years ago. Horn shelter is one of only 3 known sites in the Americas where Paleo-American burials with intentional grave goods have been discovered. Smithsonian physical anthropologist Dr. Peggy Jodrey assessed the adult male as likely a shaman based on his burial's composition. His skull was reconstructed and cast as a bronze bust, now on display at the Bosque Memorial Museum in Clifton. DNA analysis of the child's bones was completed at Harvard. Analysis of the adult's remains was in progress at the Smithsonian as of the most recent reporting. The shelter itself is on private land, not accessible to the public. The Bosque Museum in Clifton has a full recreation of the burial, including replica grave goods and the bronze bust. The shark teeth came from fossilized deposits hundreds of miles from the shelter. Someone carried them there specifically for this ceremony 11,200 years ago. The age of this burial is startling enough. The deliberate care inside it is what stays with you. Number 2. Semino Canyon, the library that rewrote history. Here's the thing about the rock art in the limestone canyons of southwest Texas, where the Pecos River and the Devil's River drop into the Rio Grande. It is not just old. Old rock art exists in many places. What makes the Pecos River-style murals different is that they are consistent. In 2025, researchers published a study in Science Advances, 57 direct radiocarbon dates from pictographs across 12 separate sites, establishing that the Pecos River painting tradition began approximately 6,000 years ago and continued until roughly 900 CE. What the dating also revealed was that the pictographs within each mural were painted so close together in time that researchers concluded each mural was a single, planned creative event, not a slow accumulation of images over centuries. Across those 12 sites in those 4,000 years, the same specific set of motifs appeared again and again: rabbit-eared headdresses, winged figures with antlers, power bundles, speech breath figures. Maintained for 175 generations through climate shifts, population changes, and technological change. As if the message mattered more than the messenger. The Lower Pecos Canyonlands Archaeological District became a National Historic Landmark in 2021. The largest single painting at Fate Bell Shelter in Semino Canyon State Park stands approximately 28 feet tall. Here's the wild part. Researchers concluded that the philosophical system encoded in these murals appears to have directly influenced the beliefs of the Olmec, Maya, and Aztec. In 2025, Huichol elders in western Mexico recognized a specific motif in the murals as a symbol still active in their own living tradition. A crenellated arch, representing the sacred mountain the sun climbs each morning. People with no writing, no cities, and no agriculture painted a philosophical system onto cliff walls in the Texas desert 6,000 years ago. That system traveled, survived, and showed up in the cosmology of civilizations building pyramids 1,000 miles away and 2,000 years later. The rock art is currently deteriorating due to increased humidity from Lake Amistad Reservoir. Guided tours run at Semino Canyon year-round. Something survived 6,000 years. it may not survive the next 200. Number 1. The Gault Site, the dig that rewrote the story of humanity. You take the exit near Florence, a small community about 60 miles north of Austin. The drive-in is agricultural, cedar and pasture, flat country just starting to fold into the hill country. Buttermilk Creek runs along one edge of the property. When you walk the site with a guide, what you see is a grassy floodplain. No mounds, no structures, no visible excavation. Wildflowers, creek sound, the ordinary Central Texas sky. What is in the ground beneath your feet is something else entirely. For most of the 20th century, archaeology operated on a foundational assumption. The first humans in the Americas arrived approximately 13,500 years ago via a land bridge from Siberia, leaving a distinctive type of spear point, called Clovis, that has been found at sites across the continent. The theory was called Clovis first. It held for decades. There was no credible evidence of anything older anywhere in the Americas. The Gault Site had been known since 1929. For most of that time, it operated as a pay-to-dig site. Amateur archaeologists paid a small fee to excavate whatever they could find in the upper layers. The critical detail in retrospect is how deep they went. Digging by hand is exhausting work. Most amateurs stopped before they reached the lower strata. The lower strata were the ones that mattered. Professional excavations running from the late 1990s through 2018 produced 2.6 million artifacts from roughly 3% of the total site area. Among them, more than 90 stone tools buried in waterlogged silty clay, stratigraphically below anything Clovis, dated by optically stimulated luminescence to between 16,000 and 20,000 years old. The findings were published in Science Advances. The site was added to the National Register of Historic Places on May 29, 2018. The Clovis first theory, as the primary explanation for when humans arrived in the Americas, collapsed. Who the pre-Clovis people were, where they came from, and how they got here, those are now open questions. The current leading hypothesis involves a coastal route by boat along the Pacific Rim, arriving thousands of years before the Clovis. The Gault excavations also yielded more than 100 incised stones engraved with geometric patterns, spirals, fine lines, pyramids, which may represent the earliest portable art in a secure archaeological context in North America. A 2x3 meter stone pavement of at least Clovis age may be among the earliest structural remains, a possible dwelling or work surface discovered anywhere in the Americas. Monthly guided tours of the site run for $10 per person, offered through the Bell County Museum and the Williamson Museum on alternating months. You walk the restored flood plain. You stand over a backfilled excavation that looks, to the eye, like an ordinary field. Roughly 97% of the site has never been excavated. Somewhere under that grass, the answer to how long humans have been in North America is still waiting. Texas has been holding these stories for a long time, in places most people drive past without noticing. For me, it is the Gault Site, a grassy floodplain above a discovery that changed who we think first came to this continent. That one stays. Which of these surprised you the most? Leave it in the comments. If you want more Texas history and archaeology like this, subscribe. New videos every week.